with Audio Airstrike.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Audio Airstrike. I'm Everett Hall-McNeill, and I have a special guest, actor, overall entertainer. You a comedian too?
On occasion.
We know for sure. Ladies and gentlemen, Martin Lopez is with us. Thank you for coming in, man.
Pleasure
we appreciate it. So, hopefully, we know for a fact this podcast isn't going to be as long as the Avengers 4 running time.
Right, because apparently it is 8 hours in length. People are signing up for a full day of movie.
Bruh, what is going on?
Yeah, it is.
That's too long.
You think so?
That's way too long.
See, I'm a nerd, so I'm okay with it. Like, when the Lord of the Rings came out, like, the jokes dropped on that, and I'm fine. Like, I'm fine with 9 hours of epic film. So if you want to stretch out, you know, Marvel's next awesomeness, like, would you have really been upset about another 45 minutes of Black Panther?
Depends on how it went.
If it was same quality. Because that movie was phenomenal, right?
Yeah.
Like, you could have, like, done more, background into, like, any of the tribes. Like, you could have stretched it out. For me, it's quality, not quantity. So if the movie's good, make it as long as you want. I will endure.
I can respect that, but also, here's the thing that if you're going to do that, if it needs to be 4 hours, then you may want to consider, like, miniseries or sequel at that point.
Fair point. You know, they did that with Kill Bill.
Right.
You know, you're looking at a 4-hour plus movie, so they cut it into 2 where there wasn't really a natural break, and they made it work. I hadn't thought of that by that.
Right.
But all right, what about this? Haven't they already done that? Right. We didn't get a complete movie with the Infinity Gauntlet.
That is true, but I think it was necessary, considering this is one of the biggest stories ever, considering the fact of how long it was going to be, considering the different steps that it took.
Spoiler alert, half the universe died.
Right. Which we have not seen. Usually it's been superhero faces the opposite of him.
Right.
He wins in the end.
Right.
No. The whole universe has got capped almost. Except Cap.
Well done. I see what you did there. Well done.
And when I'm looking at this whole thing, I'm like, oh, wow, they actually let the bad guy win. And my first thought was, don't be surprised if other films start getting on that trend where they let the bad guy kind of get away at the end.
See, here's I'm a comic book nerd.
Right.
I knew the end was coming. You didn't know that it was going to end that way?
I thought, I thought people were going to get capped. It surprised me that Black Panther was going to be going. I thought they were going to keep him around. Yeah. Because of what he's able to do. But I was like, I guess they want to keep it the original and then bring other people back. Kill off the 4 main people. And then this is me being hodgepodge spectator here. Right. They're going into phase 4, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Right? That's a setup. So I guess whoever is in the front line of the new Avengers, I guess, because Captain America, Chris Evans we know publicly he is stepping down from the role. We know that publicly. Yeah. So,
which I don't understand. Like, as an actor, you know, like, how do you step away from an iconic role? Like, I could see, like, maybe after, like, a decade plus, like, maybe if I got boxed into something and I was tired of it, you know, but, like...
How do you know he's not boxed in personally?
Yeah, I guess I don't. You know, I certainly don't. Maybe there's reasons. Yeah. But, like, for me, like, it's, like, who doesn't want to be Captain America, right? Like, who doesn't want to be one of these iconic heroes? So, for me, it's interesting. I guess I'm curious. Yeah. Right? I'm curious as to, like, what necessarily... And of course, the real answer, right? Yeah. You're in the film industry. You want to know the real answer, not the answer that they give for the public, right? Not the nice answer that they toss out there to make the PR people happy. But I'm curious, is like what really makes a man say like, I'm done being Captain America.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a lot of things. It could be they don't, they want something different. They played this for a number of years. It could be a contractual thing. It could be a money thing. It could be. There's so many stuff that surrounds it that it could be any one of those reasons. But back to what I was saying about Infinity War, I think that it was just I feel like they were doing this kind of for a changing of the guard. I feel like we're going to see that in this upcoming one.
Yeah, and that may be the case. Again, like, I'm a comic book nerd, so like, Yeah, I don't want to toss out there, but so there's different. You don't know that the movies are always going to follow the comics. In the comics, their headline people die. Mm-hmm. Like that's legit. So the movie follows the tale correctly. So I was
in the comics.
Yeah,
we know how comics are.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. Like the death of Superman was one of the best things that DC ever did,
right.
And then immediately had to bring him back because it re-energized the title. Right? Nobody cared about Superman until he died. Then all of a sudden, like that's not okay.
Right.
There's supposed to be a red cape up there 24/7 all the time. It's like when Hostess got rid of all the Hostess snakes. Like you didn't want them, but you wanted that thing on the shelf so that you comfortably knew that was there. Right, that piece of your childhood was intact.
Right.
Yeah, you're never gonna buy a Twinkie, but you want it on the shelf. Humans are odd things. I'll be curious to see where they go with it. Right, like if they follow the comic line. The characters that we've lost are not necessarily lost. But you're talking about it from an industry perspective, right? Because you're the guy behind the camera. You organize the film, and it might be a very good way of rebooting a lot of titles without losing them.
Yeah.
Right? You tie it in with the storyline, and you don't have to do a hard reset in another film with another origin story, another character. And that's something I've been wondering about too, because like even as a hardcore fan, and I'm a nerd, right? Like I'm a certified nerd, like. You do get tired of losing the first 20, 30 minutes of every film to the origin story. Like, we know how
all
Batman
the exposition.
came to bit. We know how Spider-Man showed up. There's been, 87 Spider-Man reboots? Like, we don't need to see Uncle Ben die again. We got that part covered. Right. So, yeah, how do you keep a title going that fans want to see and not, tell that same old trope over and over again?
Well, I think what happened is that they were doing that. Okay, we're going to do the original story. And when politics in the film industry played out the way that they did, they started, if you notice, they started researching into the comics more and more as time went on. As the politics got more, it's like, all right, the public is well aware of the origin stories. We need to dig deeper and bring these stories to life.
Okay.
So then let's do our research. Okay, we can do a whole cinematic universe, make our money, and hire a who's who of today's best actors and pay them. Mm-hmm. But it has to be built over a 10-year span. Mm-hmm. That's why Marvel won and DC flopped. DC did not take their time to turn around and be like, hey, we're going to strategically plan this. They were playing catch up and rushed everything.
Yeah.
So they were playing checkers. Marvel's sitting over here playing chess.
Yeah. Like every movie really lent in and set the capstone for the other films. You're absolutely right.
Right. That's just my thoughts on it. Am I looking forward to the 4-hour time? I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to sit over there because it is Marvel and I know they're going to keep me entertained. However, I'm scared because it's like, all right, I don't want to have to take a leak and then miss something.
Right. But
that's the scary part.
Yeah, I feel that. But let me ask you this though. When's the last bad Marvel movie you saw?
Can I give a hot take?
Sure.
The last Guardians of the Galaxy.
Really?
The last one with Kurt Russell.
Really?
The last one, Kurt Russell. I saw it. I was like, okay, this may not be the first two.
Yeah.
So there's only two, right? There's only two Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Oh, two.
Okay, so the second one was solid.
The first one, well done. The second one with Kurt Russell,
the first one was great.
Yeah. The second one with Kurt Russell, I was like, you could make an argument that the first one is better than the
first one's certainly bad. Yeah. I said bad though. My question was bad. I don't think the second one was Shakespeare, but I thought it was entertained. I didn't walk out of the movie upset. You make film. When you've seen a bad movie and you leave the theater, you're like, the hell.
Oh right? Yeah. Last Airbender, anything that M. Night Shyamalan made.
Yeah. The Blair Witch Project, any of that mess, right? All that.
We'll get killed for saying that because we're from here.
I said it. But yeah, so that I have faith. I as yet have faith. Put it this way, juxtaposition to that, I'm a huge Star Wars fan,
right?
And they've lost me. I'll go see Star Wars movies, but I no longer expect it to be good. I go because I want to see lightsabers and I love the music and all that. But they lost me some time ago on the credibility scale. I know I'm gonna go see the next Star Wars movie and it might be bad.
The Last Jedi, I think it pissed people off because there wasn't a unanimous with Force Awakens. There wasn't a unanimous hey, this was dope. That's what the Force of Awakens was.
Right.
Last Jedi literally split the fan base to decide if this is good or this is trash.
Right.
I've never seen a Star Wars film do that.
You're absolutely right. Yeah,
I've never seen a Star Wars film do
like,
that.
Yeah, whether or not people dug on it or whatever, like there wasn't like anger. Like people were furious. And like I think you can go back to like tactic, right? That who came up with that fuel thing? Like that's the worst thing you could ever do to that guy. Like that makes every movie going forward impossibly hard to film, right? And I just think it from an industry standpoint, right? Like, you know, why would you do that? Like as a filmmaker, you want devices that let you tell like more creative stories or interesting stories or like give you more loops. Like you don't want to like put ground rules on yourself that you then can't like, you know, move by. Like why would you make it harder?
Yeah, it was just...
I feel like you can only use the Force on Tuesdays from now on. Like why? Why would you do that?
It just doesn't make any sense, man. It really doesn't. So moving on to the next topic. So Bohemian Rhapsody is under fire.
Is it?
For getting Freddie Mercury wrong, apparently.
All right, walk me through this.
Apparently. So, Bohemian Rhapsody has numerous historical inaccuracies that have been criticized for misrepresenting the legacy of Freddie Mercury. Okay. Biopics are very hard to pull off, that I agree. Mm-hmm. Especially one of the main subjects of the movie has passed away. Especially when one of the main subjects has passed away.
Right.
Rami Malek's portrayal of Mercury is praised, and rightfully so, but the story comes off a bit weird in places, especially since anybody with an internet connection can Google the history of the band. Bohemian Rhapsody comes off like a band trying to take away from Mercury's legacy at times. Obviously, this seems like a bias. This is from movieweb.com. Yeah. It seems a bit biased.
It certainly does, right? It seems like maybe they were a hardcore Queen fan and they wanted like a little bit more Queen and less like this one dude, and then they feel like they got the dude wrong. I don't know. Like,
who are you going to get to play Freddie Mercury? He's like the perfect guy. Right. There's nobody else.
Right. And he crushes it. Right. And like, you know, like as an actor, I always want to praise when other people do well because it's very easy to sit there and see somebody casting a role you want and be like, I could have done that.
Right.
But like
the arrogance.
Yeah. Dude crushes it. Right. So like, I don't. And people are excited about it, and like, listen, nothing against Queen, but it wasn't like the Beatles or like Led Zeppelin. You didn't have that like universal following,
right?
So to do like more of a niche band, and you know, a guy that maybe not everybody knows about, to come out and like just hit a home run with your performance, yeah, it seems an odd criticism to me.
I think people get a little bit anytime that they are doing a biopic or a comic book. The stands come out. And they want it to be done a certain type of way.
Yeah, especially that primary fan, right? That like
that diehard fan that's got like 4 or 5 posters on the wall.
They've been waiting for this. They've been waiting for this for 20 years.
Right. They've been waiting for this 20 years. They got the bed with his face on it. They got the pillow with his face on it. They got the T-shirt. They got the wristbands. They got the underwear. I ain't gonna ask no questions.
That's awesome.
But that's what they. But they are
so.
There's
Queen underwear. There's Queen underwear.
I know for a fact there was. Yeah. Hopefully it was clean too. That's another story for another time. Hopefully it was clean.
It's on tape.
So when I'm sitting there and I'm looking at this and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, y'all really are gonna get this butthurt over a biopic. They're trying to do their best. I can understand if it was the Aaliyah biopic that came out, the Aaliyah biopic that came out, the Lifetime special. I can understand if it was that bad, on that level of bad.
You know, I grew up with it, right?
I'm aware. How do you, sidebar, how do you feel about that biopic?
I haven't seen it yet. You haven't seen it yet?
Yeah. Don't waste your time.
That bad, huh?
I haven't seen it, and I heard everybody was taking complete crap on it.
Yeah, we grew up in the same hometown, like right the same thing. Like it's a little few years off, but I'm from the Midwest.
Get out of here. Where exactly in the Midwest you from?
South Bend, Indiana. Yeah.
No wonder you don't act like a Marylander.
Knows I don't quite sound like it.
Right. Not at all.
Yeah, addictions. My pop is from Brooklyn. So like half of it's like the East Coast, whatever. But it's like you take an East Coast kid and you have him grow up in cornfields, and then you get this. That's why it's not my fault. None of this is my fault.
Some chick will take liking to you.
We'll see.
We'll see how that goes. Martin,
I want to put up with.
Martin is one of them type people, and I know this for a fact. If your head ain't in them books, I'm not with it. I'm sorry, I can't. That's how he is.
Yep.
That's exactly how he is.
No, back to Freddie.
Right. So people have these impossible ground rules to lay down. First of all, the guy's not here. So the best way that you can go about it is get the people involved who are there, band members and stuff like that, which I'm pretty sure they did that.
They're more than willing. Yeah,
right.
I heard excuse me, I forget the guy's guitarist, but like the lead guitarist from Queen was on NPR the other day, sat down and did an hour talking about the film and blah, 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 blah. So yeah, they certainly had resources. I don't think they like shot from the hip on this one.
Right. I don't think they just sat over there and says, all right, we're just going to make money, and if y'all see this, whatever, we just want to take your money. I don't think they went into that with that mindset. I think they wanted to accurately tell this story the best way they possibly could, using the feedback from family, from band members and stuff like that. My issue is, folks, the biopic wasn't trash. The trailer wasn't trash.
The trailer was great.
The trailer was great and well done, which will make you go see the full movie.
Yeah, I might have not seen it without that trailer. That was an effective trailer. I was like, I want to go see tear it up on screen for 2
So if the trailer is that nice, and he's looking every bit of Freddie Mercury as you can possibly get.
He's looking spectacular.
Right. This is not Mr. Robot that you're dealing with here. Right. This is Freddie Mercury. And shout outs to Raymond, what's his last name? How you pronounce it? I don't want to butcher it, so shout outs to Rami. We appreciate it. I don't want to butcher it because I ain't trying to get killed for it.
Ask Google. Google knows. Google knows all kinds of stuff.
Right. Can't give Google too much power, though. They end up like Disney. They already are that. But from that perspective, man, y'all just need to chill out. I don't even know what more to say. Y'all need to chill out.
I agree.
Go see the movie. Take it for what it is. This is not Star Wars. This is not something to get triggered over. Yeah. You guys will be fine. And you guys got the music, too. So you guys got music and video if you're not satisfied with the movie. They got their whole catalog on YouTube for you to watch and love.
Yeah, and it's not a research paper. Like, you're watching entertainment, right? So you're going to get a slant on a story. You're not going to, nobody that makes an old school gangster movie about Chicago, like, gives you the exact accurate portrayal of Al Capone. They take an angle on him. They take a lens and they tell a story. That's what entertainment is. It's not the truth.
Yeah, we're here to entertain you. There's a line between... And I get it. There's a line between education and entertainment. Mm-hmm. And as a creative, you have to find that niche in between. Mm-hmm. And people are going to miss sometimes. People are going to hit and people are going to miss. It's the risk you take.
You have to, right? In order to do something interesting and new and to keep challenging audiences so they're not bored in theaters, you got to take different angles, right? You have to take creative approaches.
Because here's the problem. People are complaining about a remake. Or they're complaining about there's so much money being drawn to these remakes. How come we're not getting original ideas? Then when the original ideas come out, they don't want to support the original idea so it can make more money so they can get a sequel, so they can get it and carry it on. And it'd be a new, fresh franchise with a new storyline, new actors, and a whole new, fresh concept that we have not seen before.
Correct.
That is my problem with y'all as consumers. Y'all will be the first ones to say, look, I'm tired of the remakes, but then don't support the original films that come out with an original concept with original characters that you've never heard of before.
Humans are needy people.
Americans are needy people.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Fair enough.
Damn Americans. Anyway.
Yeah, my brother's dating a French girl. I now have a whole new perspective. Like, you want needy. The French are up there, too.
Really?
Yeah, Americans are, French are very picky people.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
We need to get a French person in here to talk about that.
Yeah, we just let her pick the restaurants because, like, that way it's not our fault when everything goes wrong.
That's smart.
It's like, you pick the spot. It's not on us.
You can look at her and be like, it's your fault. This was
only
trash.
a 4-star restaurant? I'm sorry. It's just, I don't know. I don't know what we're doing here.
Right. Oh, my God. That's
Hey,
funny.
Darling. Hey.
She's going to kill you.
She's going to watch this later.
She's going to kill you. Be like, this dude right here.
I like her quite a bit. But I love giving her shit about the French. It makes me happy.
All right, so speaking of other news, so apparently there was a shooting at a 6ix9ine music video set. Tekashi 6ix9ine has seen a lot of success over the past few months alone. The rapper was shooting a music video in LA yesterday alongside Kanye West and Nicki Minaj. Good Lord. Anyway.
Oh, Kanye. Oh, Kanye.
Two artists who have collaborated with him in the past. Unfortunately, shots rang out in the middle of the music video shoot. Long story short, a bullet hit Nicki Minaj's window. She wasn't there. Kanye ran. And 6ix9ine gave his response about the whole music video shooting incident.
Okay.
So this is my thoughts on that.
Preach.
They all have done stuff to piss people off over the past several months.
Yeah.
6ix9ine with his trolling. Nicki Minaj being Nicki Minaj at times, just talking trash and doing stuff or doing little petty stuff here and there.
Young lady has edge.
Yeah, and Kanye, you don't even need to say it. Yeah. It's one of those situations where if you've been under a rock for the past several months,
slavery,
you know exactly what it's doing.
Right. God damn it.
Right.
What is wrong with you, man?
Bruh, I was on, when he did that, I was off of him. I was like.
But you know what? Like, that's one of those, like, silver lining moments. Like, the man in the room that stood up to that, like, that just couldn't hack it, right? It wasn't a big name dude that just, like, you had a guy that, like, could have lost his job over that, right? You have this superstar in
He's a senior producer. He's a senior producer at TMZ, Van Lathan.
Right. So you got a superstar in studio doing a piece, and, like, that guy, and he didn't even, like, wait till later. He couldn't let it go, right? He heard wrong. He heard absolute wrong, and at that moment, just, no, it was too much for him. I will love him for the rest of his life for that. That was a beautiful thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how famous you are. Like, this cannot stand, right? Cannot let this go.
And then here's the problem, right? Or I shouldn't say here's the problem, but here's the silver lining to this, right? Mm-hmm. Now, all of a sudden, recently, Kanye says, oh, I'm feeling used. I'm not going to talk about politics. Keep in mind, this is after the Yeezy selling of the Yeezys, the shoe, has slowed progressively down. Mm-hmm. So now you don't want to talk about politics because your brand is affected and people aren't playing your albums like they're used to.
Right.
And I've said this on this show plenty of times. He does stuff for the album rollout. Like 6ix9ine when he trolls people. You are trolling street rap dudes that are about the same age that don't give a damn.
Right.
They don't give a damn. They will be just as savage as you are. And then when I hear stuff like this.
And they have less to lose.
Yeah. They have very less to lose. Right.
Yeah.
So when you decide to troll street dudes that think on a street level, know what comes with that.
Yeah.
And this is what happens.
And you know, that comes to, like, I don't know anything about 6ix9ine. I don't know, like, you know, how familiar he is with that.
He's not a mumble rapper, but he's a rapper that does a lot of trolling against street dudes.
I mean, I'm talking about, like, his upbringing, because, like, the point that I'm going into is that, like, I've been very lucky in life. Like, I have a very diverse friend group. Mm-hmm. So even though, you know, I haven't personally experienced a lot of things, I've worked with a lot of people that have. And that's sort of like the beauty of, like, film and entertainment. You do any number of different movies, and based on the project and, like, the perspective they need to make that work, you meet all these different people, right? Mm-hmm. I now live in Baltimore. I've shot a number of films in Baltimore. I have a thorough education in the world that comes from. And I think people forget that, like, just because you make it out of that doesn't mean you can leave it behind. Right. And, like, there's times where, like, I have, you know, and I'm certainly not going to mention anybody's names, but, like, there's people that, like, I've got along with on set. There's people that I didn't get along with on set, and how they handled that and you know, the things that resulted from that largely came from their background. Right. And, like, even people, like, I've known some people over a number of years where, like, I've sort of, like, watched them change and, like, cater that. But, like, if you grow up in a hostile environment where you're constantly under threat and you need to be on edge, like, you learn to protect yourself, and very quickly, like, you ramp up very quickly to any sort of
because it's a mix of, do you think it's like a mix of anxiety, trauma, plus knowing the experience? You think it's a mix of all that?
That sounds very accurate, right? Anxiety being the key thing. Like, it's fear. And that's what I think a lot of people that grow up safe don't understand, is that violence is not a result of, I can't say always. Violence, I would say, is majoritively not the response of hatred or anger. Violence is often the response of fear, right? You're afraid, and you learn to, like, deal with that fear in a way that protects yourself, make you safe, right? Like, I will lash out at this thing, you know, if I feel something's coming for me or whatever, even if that's subconscious. I don't think it's always on a conscious level. Right. You go after that. But this type of thing, I've seen it all the time, right? So you got some dude who graduates from Juilliard in, you know, a trust fund, right, and has an altercation on set with somebody that grew up on North Avenue. Yeah. And they come at that altercation from very different perspectives, right? And then when it doesn't go well, neither side understands what the other side didn't get, right? The Juilliard guy doesn't understand why all of a sudden the other dude's holding a bottle, and the guy from the bottle is like, well, listen, you said some shit about me. You didn't think something was going to happen because of that? Like, you thought
there's
you
a
could
receipt for that.
Yeah. You thought you could just talk about me and nothing would follow. And both are not wrong, and both are wrong. So I feel like this is an exact sort of, it's a metaphor of that, right? It's another example of that, right? Where you have a guy who is now in a very safe, plush world, where the money's coming in, where the sort of gangsterness is now a persona instead of a reality, right? And now you're projecting that, and surprise, the real world is still involved, and it can still touch you.
You still can be touched. You're not in fairy tale land. You still can be touched. You're still a human.
Still touch you.
If that bullet went off and you bled, like, you would still bleed red. So I mean, it makes sense. Yeah, it's very dicey. People have to understand, right? You can't lose yourself to the point that you can't. What's the way I could say this? Don't lose yourself to the point that you lose reality. You can't be touched. You're still a person. You're not the best thing since sliced bread. It's okay to understand. It's okay to grow and evolve and mature and to handle stuff from a growth aspect. You're always progressing, but you can't really you can't be having your head so far up your rear end that you don't realize, hey, if I'm in the middle of this particular situation, I have to understand the culture of what I'm around.
Absolutely. This again, huge nerd. One of my favorite books is Dune by Frank Herbert, right? Even if you're not a reader, go read Dune by Frank Herbert. But he has this saying in there where he's talking about greatness and how it's dangerous. Right. And one of the lines, Frank Herbert has a PhD in psychology, by the way, which makes his book great. But the line basically reads that if at any point a man falls in love with his own myth, he will be destroyed. And that can be applied to any aspect of the entertainment thing. And it's certainly applicable to Kanye, right? The second that you forget that your success, your celebrity, whatever, is a persona, that it's a projection of you, not really you. As soon as you're saying, like, that's me, right? Like, the physical entity Martin Lopez is a star, no longer a mortal man. That's the end.
Right.
It's over.
People stop buying your Yeezys.
Well, then, because like even if somebody's a celebrity, even if somebody's larger than life, like Beyonce, right? Like Beyonce or Oprah, right? They're both now like their own brand, right? They're their whole industry. Even somebody like that, people like them because of the real parts of them. It's not. It's not the giant Mega Millions. It's not whatever. Like people aren't in love.
There's like this tangible relation that they have, or it's like a look up. It's almost like
integrity. That's what it is.
It's like there's an integrity there, and there's more of a respect there.
Yeah, it's genuine.
Yeah, everything about it is genuine.
Yeah, and all the money and the power and the celebrity, people are happy that they have them, but that's not what generates the love. What generates the love is the genuine product, the real, human aspect of who they are and how that is portrayed in their art. That's what people love. And then they're happy all the other stuff follows.
Right.
But there's plenty of like super rich, famous people that we don't give a fuck about because they're not genuine and they're plastic and they're awful people. And they're like, all right, well, you got money. Like, I would never be in the same room as you.
Right, absolutely. Because there's a difference between...
I wouldn't hang out with Kanye.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
I couldn't do it.
Don't call. Don't call Kanye.
You definitely not a friend of the show. You definitely not a friend of the show. I couldn't do it.
Do not call me.
Because people, here's what I'll put it to you like this, right? I'll give you a perfect example, right? I was filming like this Republican type of a convention type of deal, and Ben Carson happened to be there.
Excellent example.
So
I see where this is going.
So my friend, who's slightly older now, he really doesn't mess with either party, but he was kind of a little bit excited to see Ben Carson. He keep in mind he's like 50-some, in his 50s.
Okay.
So I'm like around 27 at the time. I'm 28 now. So
that's so old. God, you're so old.
How old are you, Martin?
I'm 18.
With the whole stubble and
I don't know I was going to be on camera this morning. Dude didn't tell me I was going to be on camera this morning. That's why
I sure did.
In my PJs.
I sure didn't tell him. He walked in, he saw the camera there. He looked at me like, damn, Everett, really?
I'm bumming. That's all right. Anyway, your story. You interrupted your story. Go ahead.
But he looked over at me. He was like, oh, my gosh, that's Ben Carson. Now, keep in mind, I'm well aware who he is. I'm well aware what he's done for medicine.
Right.
At the same time, though, he has said dumb stuff that's affected people of African American descent.
Yeah. Asinine stuff, right?
Very asinine stuff.
We could forgive any number of things that be like, dude, what are you doing?
So me knowing that, and I literally, Martin, I kid you not, I took like 5 minutes in and I thought about it. I was like, I looked at him. I said, so I'm supposed to be impressed because he's standing in front of me. And I acted like I wasn't impressed. I literally acted. It wasn't me trying to be cool. It was literally because I knew about him. And also I knew the destructive commentary that he gave towards people of color about certain issues. I was not impressed. And what I'm saying is, right. And what I'm saying is you have reached a level of success, and that's great. Don't forget the fact that there are people out there that have not reached that level of success or see success from a smaller or different perspective. You don't have to be a millionaire to be successful. Success doesn't mean I have to have this extremely high position that makes money. Success is what you make it. And that's the problem that I have with people now, and especially I think I have that problem with just us as Americans in general. Like, we get so caught up into what works or what works from a materialistic perspective that it is draining.
Very materialism, yeah.
So you mix materialism with political tribalism mixed with overall greed. It's not a good ingredient of soup that you want to make.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But
I would toss in there social media. I think it compounds all the problems you're talking about, because part of America has always been like, do I have a cool car? Do I have a nice house? Does my job make a lot of money? And then like, do people see that, right? Do people see me as a successful individual? Right. But that was only, it was made exponential with social media, because maybe that only came out in social functions or like large people. Like, now everyone's on display. Right. Everyone, like, what your life looks like on a daily basis. And that's a choice, right? We choose to buy into it. We don't have to broadcast all that, and maybe we shouldn't, but we certainly do. So the notion of like, how far along are you, and it goes out of the money range too. Like, like people freak out about like their relationships, right? Like, am I with somebody? Is that going somewhere? You're absolutely right. It's this need to be successful. They have like this burning need not to just be successful, to be seen as successful, which are very different things. Yeah, and I'm with you. Like, some of the stuff that like I do in life, like, it looks good, right? People see like being an actor in a film, and like that's whatever. But like, I teach courses in British literature. That shit makes me happy. Like, I like it. I like teaching about Beowulf and Chaucer and Shakespeare. Doesn't pay immensely well, right? But like, I've made posts about this. Like, there's something about like, helping a developing young mind or affecting somebody, or like, maybe if some of my students end up geeking out the way I did. Like, one of the best notes I ever got was the student wrote back like several years later, and they had just finished their degree in medieval history. And I was like, that's solid. Welcome to the tribe. Like, that type of stuff, I agree with you. Like, when you get to the end of your life, what are you going to look back on? What actually makes you happy? If the difference is your bank account says $1.8 million versus $700,000, I'm not sure that's what does it.
Right. It's very disheartening to me when I see people act that way, because it's like, y'all are missing the point. Y'all are really missing the point.
Who puts on their tombstone their bank account?
Nobody.
Here lies Mr. Smith.
Nobody
died with $2.2 million in the bank.
You're going to be buried the same way that poor person was buried.
And people don't pass that tombstone. Like, oh, look, that guy died with a lot of money. So, like, no one cares. Right. At the end of your days, the dollars are not what matters.
I told this at my job. I'm like, look, money is okay, but people, I
needed to not die.
Right. You needed to keep staying steady, make sure you're in a nice spot. Okay, that's cool. Now, here's the thing, though. What people are going to remember is how you made them feel. They may forget what you say. They may forget what you did. They may even forget accomplishments if it's not big enough, or if it's not heard enough times, or whatever. But they will never forget how you made them feel.
Right.
Good or bad.
Right. How did you treat people?
How did you treat people? What did you say to them? Because it's one thing to go, oh yeah, he was a great successful guy at his profession. It's a whole nother thing to look back and be like, yo, he helped all these people get here. If it wasn't for him, ain't none of us would get put on.
Preach.
So that's the difference between both. So it's just one of them things, man. And this is just another example where you have to really look out for people over positions, over policy, over money. You know, you have to take that time to look after.
And people. Especially like in our industry, like with independent filmmakers, right? Like we want to do the thing, but you don't have millions yet. So like the only way that works, the only way that like you shoot movies like we do, or you get something like that made and made well, is like when people sack up and decide to contribute. You know, and like bring their talents to the thing. Like you don't have a stunt guy demanding to be paid his worth. He's willing to show up and do the 3 or 4 stunts you need for your flick, and like take some money, but not break the bank. Like that's the only way it works.
Because that's kind of and I'll open up kind of the curtain here. That's kind of the dilemma I'm in. Don't get it twisted. I want to pay people.
Yeah,
I want to pay everybody.
Yeah,
if it was up to me, if I had $100,000, everybody would get paid. The problem is, I don't make enough salary wise to pay everybody to really bankroll it. I'm not at that point yet. So then I have to turn around. I have to be like, all right, there's certain things I know I have to pay for. If I want this edited within a certain amount of time, I know I got to pay for that. I know I got to take care of this. The reality of the situation is, and this is the kind of the reality for independent filmmakers or creators, is it's not just me in that boat. It's several creators in that boat. We all work in a 9 to 5, either that we don't want to work or it's just to pay the bills. Yeah. So it's one of those situations where, okay, I have to take the little money that I do have, because I can't sit over there and throw my hands up and be like, well, I ain't got money, I'm not going to do it.
Right.
Because it's going to bother you if you don't pursue it.
Yeah, you got to pursue your passion.
Yeah. So it was one of those situations where, okay, I got to pursue it. Yes, I understand the situation I'm in, but I have to pursue it. Otherwise, I can't call myself a filmmaker or creator.
Totally agree. I get asked all the time that, like, now that I've had a few like lead roles under my belt, like, why not move to LA? And like, it's not that I wouldn't do it, but I wouldn't do it without like a big contract on the books. Right. And exactly for that, like, I don't want to be an aspiring actor. I want to be an actor. Right. So like, I and like nothing, like, I don't want to criticize people. If you're out in LA and you're trying to make it and you're waiting tables, like, I certainly have a lot of respect for you. That's just not the path that I can personally take. Right. I can't go live in a city hoping that work finds me. For me, like, I want to be doing the work. So like on the East Coast, I regularly get work. I'm regularly in projects. Like for me, I'm an actor now. So yeah, I'm not willing to give that up to go, roll the dice in another window. On the money thing, like, and I think you're right. In like, I think people need to be a little bit more communicative, because it's not always about like money or not money. Like I made the switch several years ago to like always get paid. Like I won't join a project if I'm not getting paid. But that wasn't to be punitive. There's different ways around that. I had a really good discussion with a director. I've shot at least 2 films, maybe 3. 2 films with this guy. Now we're working on 3. That's what it is. But he is an independent filmmaker, not a lot of cash, but he was of the perspective, he basically said exactly what you just did, and his role was that like he had to find good actors, but guys that were willing to work for free. And he saw one of my posts on that, and he's like, let's talk about this, because he didn't understand the perspective. Yeah. And he went and said, listen, I need to, we need to have a quality camera. If we don't have good sound, like, you know how it is. If you don't have quality equipment and you're not editing right, it doesn't matter how good the script is or whatever, it's not going to look quality. Right. And if somebody thinks that, like you did this and like posted it on YouTube, it's not going to do a whole lot for you or whatever. It's not. The conversation I had with him is like, but that's exactly why I have to have money. I was like, you're not going to shoot a movie on your cell phone. You're not going to because you need quality stuff. I was like, an actor's the same component. Absolutely. It's like, if you want a quality performer, you have to be willing to pay for that. Right. The difference is, I will 100% work with the director on like what that is. Like I don't demand like the same dollar sign, right? And for like, if I really believe in a project, if I see like a script that I like or whatever, like I will come down a significant amount. But there's a huge difference even between like zero money and $100 a day. Like nobody's breaking the bank off of $100 a day. But for me, it matters. Or that, I don't say like other guys just starting off, I wouldn't recommend that actors come out of the gate and be like money or nothing. Like you need work. Like you need to get experience. You need to build your resume somehow. You need experience under your belt. You need to be on set. And like the first few jobs that I did with no money, like it made me better at my job, because I'd never been on set before. I'd never, all that type of stuff that mattered. But there's other things you can do. Like you can also talk about like quality control of story, right? Like if a guy can't pay me a whole lot, but he's willing to like let me put in my 2 cents on the character or help like, you know, flesh out like what my guy's going to look like on screen. That's a mode of getting paid. If a director offers to, you know, get you your footage after the film's cut and then like you can put that stuff in your reel, like there's any number of ways that you can get paid in industry and you can get value for your time that doesn't have to be a big contract.
Right, absolutely.
And I think a lot of times that's what maybe actors miss on this side of the fence when they're like, I need money for respect. Like I totally agree, you deserve respect. It doesn't have to be in the form of Washingtons all the time.
Right. Do you feel like that's the biggest miscommunication, because it kind of, if that dialogue isn't had, that it makes directors feel some type of way because I feel like, well, I can't really reach out to this actor because of, you know, because I feel like
maybe.
Because I feel like if there is no dialogue and you don't understand where a person's coming from, then how can you find a solution?
Yeah, I think it's I don't know.
I think an honest conversation would go further. Like if you ain't got the cash, just tell the guy.
Yeah,
yeah. You know what I mean?
But I think it's easy to misunderstand on both sides of the fence,
right?
Because a lot of it is sometimes that like people are saying that like, you know, well, if your heart's really in this and you love film and making stories, then why wouldn't you come help us make this, you know, project? And so it's easy to maybe look at it as like, I need money, as maybe they're not as dedicated to the craft when they can be, you know, fully dedicated. Like I love film, right? Like makes me happy. But, you know, career-wise or decision, like I had to get some sort of compensation. And then on the other side, if you're in like the director or the producer hat, a lot of times, and especially with independent films, the better the budget is, the better your overall quality product.
Right.
So you want every dollar you can to go into the product, and that you see yourself in the producer or the director hat as paying everybody, the sound guy, the cast and crew, the script. You know,
but don't forget the marketing too, otherwise it won't go as far.
Right. Exactly. So every dollar that goes into the production itself is better for everybody, because if you come out making something good, we all get paid, you know, in terms of career, resume. So that's great. So I completely get that from the producers. And then maybe whether it's like a lead guy that wants like a little bit more money or something like that, maybe they're not factoring that into it, that like a director isn't trying to shortchange you, isn't saying like you don't deserve cash. They're saying like, if we make something at a higher quality level, that's the better way I can pay you. Right. Like some of Hollywood's biggest stars started in Sundance. They were in small independent stuff that was just made great. It was made very, very well. And then they got discovered. They're like, holy crap, this is an excellent film. This person did great in it. And then, you know, you can't say they didn't get paid for that.
Right.
So
helps the whole team out.
Yeah, I think it's a communication thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So Martin, I'm gonna let you introduce the next topic because this one is a little bit of a doozy.
Yeah, right. So again, in America, we're facing a huge issue with gun violence. It seems to be unending, and both sides seems to be continually polarized, right? People that are staunch supporters of the Second Amendment, they constantly feel it's under threat, and they don't want their what they feel is inalienable civil rights to be removed. And the other side of the fence is like, we have people dying. We have people dying all the time, and we seem to be unable to find common ground. This last one, not that any like particular shooting is more devastating than the other, but this cat posted. All right, so we get Ian David Long, 28, writes in the middle of his shooting that he is bored but sane. And that's apparently what law enforcement officials told NBC. Says he also wrote that he knew his mental state would be debated for years, and that he made 2 separate posts amid a shooting rampage at the Borderline Bar and Grill in Thousand Oaks Wednesday night. Law enforcement sources did not specify which social media platforms he used. But yeah, so we have a situation where not only do we have a mass shooter who obviously goes into a public place and ruins a bunch of people's lives, but in the middle of it, updates social media. Right, like, and
also he is a Marine, right? He was a Marine. He served.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack.
So here's my thoughts, right? What is the big deal? Why can't we just have stricter gun control laws to avoid this from happening?
Communication. I'm hardcore on this. I don't understand. Caveat, like, I am a gun owner. I own multiple weapons. I don't understand why we can't advance gun control. It doesn't make sense to me. But the crux of the problem seems to be like, we can't start the conversation, right? The NRA takes if you get anywhere near this topic, they immediately jump to, you're trying to take away our guns.
Ain't nobody trying to take away your damn guns.
Nobody is doing that. Nobody's even come anywhere close, right? Like we had an assault weapons ban in like the late 90s that said that there are, some firearms that may be deemed too dangerous, like military grade assault, whatever. And that weapons ban was not the best put together, and it certainly wasn't effective. But that doesn't mean that that's the only thing that we could do or the only approach or whatever. The numbers show, right? Polling in the United States shows that like most gun owners, most people who own weapons are in favor of legislation that somehow could curtail gun violence. But we can't even get to the table to begin talking about it because of whether it's the media or private interest groups or whatever. It always gets blown up to like, are we taking away guns or not? And that's not the discussion, right? Nobody has ever said we'll take away Americans' guns.
And then the problem with that is that the conversation never is had about, okay, how can we come together as pro-gun and a little bit against guns? How can we come together to make sure that nobody has to go through this pain again? I told a buddy of mine this. I said, you will never understand the pain that somebody goes through losing somebody over gunfire until it happens to you.
Right.
You will never understand that. Of course, you're going to be on the side of, well, they're taking away from my guns. No, they're not. However, I can understand why you're on the side of it because you've never lost somebody to gun violence.
Right.
So they've never had that perspective, at least the ones that are shouting this.
Yeah. And what I don't understand is, like, we get all up in arms about it. Like, right now, the hot button thing is like the opioid crisis. Like government officials, like people like you see, like people are willing to go to war over like people are dying over opioids. Like,
but here's
put
the problem.
Numbers against gun violence,
right?
Man. Like
here's the problem, though. People did not care about the opioid crisis until it affected middle-class Americans that were the sons and daughters of important people that move and shake the country.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it does seem that very quickly, like, an important person's kid got hit, and then all of a sudden it was important.
Right. Homies in ghettos and this and that and lower-income families have been dealing with the opioid crisis for years, and they got grossly ignored and ashamed, and nobody cared.
Yeah.
The second that a kid in a rural, nice area gets hooked on this stuff, now all of a sudden everybody wants to care. When they're on a certain class, now everybody wants to care.
Yeah, and it's really sort of disingenuous too, because they lumped it together. Like what affects middle class America, often white America, is pills. It's not what wiping people. Heroin is killing people. Like needles in the arms, and that's been killing urban areas for decades.
Absolutely.
And they don't separate the numbers either. They're like, this is how many opioid deaths. Like those opioid deaths are from people putting dirty needles in their arms.
Absolutely.
It's not from some kid taking a Percocet in a basement. That's not what wiping people out.
Right.
So I totally agree. This is politicized. So I only bring that in as an example is because like we have tons of things in the country that are killing people. So not to get too heated about it, but and again, like I own firearms, but like we have to be able to have civil discourse about it in an honest and effective way to deal with the issue. So to have one side shout, "You'll never take our guns away. Nobody has the right to do that." And to have the other side, say, we're not talking about that. We're just trying to look at ways to reduce violence in the country. And to have the two sides never even admit what the other side is saying is insane to me.
The biggest problem is people want to listen to reply instead of listen to understand.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest problem.
Yeah.
I keep saying this on this. I've said this saying for the past, it's going on a couple years now. Once 2019 gets here, which are about like a couple months away, but that's sidebar to the point. I've said this on this podcast several times. Is the conversation to listen to understand, or is it to listen to reply? If it's not for listening to understand somebody, I don't want no part of the conversation.
Yeah. Just waiting for your chance to make your point.
Right.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I think this is what most people don't understand about the whole gun conversation, right? Gun control is not gun removal. Gun control is like looking at how does everybody keep their guns and do so in a safe and responsible way that's great for society, right? The Constitution guarantees, you the right to bear arms. What types of arms those are and in what quantity, what process is up for debate and should be debated. There's all kinds of crap you can't have. You can't have rocket launchers. You can't have fully automatic military assault rifles. That's already in place, right? The way the laws already exist, there are weapons you cannot have. We have already decided collectively that the average citizen doesn't have an independent mandate for an arsenal free-for-all.
Right.
So if that's already on the books and we've already got there, gun control is not this newfangled thing being put in place to try and steal the weapon out of your house. It's saying from this point moving forward, and we saw this with the initial weapons ban, like looking back, like there wasn't a mandate to go remove any, if you already have one of these things that's grandfathered in, the government is never going to come take your weapon. What gun control is, defining it, is not a ban on the Second Amendment. It'll never happen. It's not taking away your guns, right? Whatever weapons you have are generally grandfathered into the law. All gun control is saying from this point, moving forward, is what can we do to look at making sure that people keep their right to have their firearms and protect their family and feel secure, but also do it in a safe way for society. So it looks at things like type of weapons. It looks at things like, the amount of bullets that are in your clip. It talks about like the sale registry. Like one of the things that almost everybody agrees on is universal background checks. If somebody goes in to get a weapon that can kill another human being, why don't we look into their background, right? That seems a no-brainer, but we can't even get to the table to even discuss that because of how highly politicized and how hot button the topic is, right? Or talking about like waiting periods, right? If I want to go buy a firearm, maybe, there's a, and it's so funny, like what seems common sense to others, people get like irate about. Like some people mention like a week waiting period, and some people will say that's sensible, and some people would say it's insane. Some people say 48 hours, 2 days. Right? Wait 2 days. I go in to order a gun. You wait that long for packages on Amazon, right? Like if I want to order, like a new like hot plate or something, it could take 2 days to get to my house.
Right. If
that's reasonable for a hot plate, why not wait 2 days while somebody runs a background check on a firearm? But the sides are so polarized in this particular issue that specifically like the NRA and gun advocates would be like, listen, if I want a gun at 2:33 on Tuesday and I have the cash and I'm in the store, I get a gun at 2:33 on Tuesday. But that begs the question, like, why do you need it so bad at that particular moment, right?
Yeah. And then another thing is I'm questioning people's mental health. And so here's, with that particular incident, right? How many people did he kill?
Oh, he hurt a lot of people. I'm not sure about a lot of it. There's a lot of woundings. Let me see if I can dial it up here.
Because there's reports that
he fatally shot 12 people, and there's more that are hurt. So he hit a lot of people. He killed at least 12.
So apparently, based on from what I'm hearing, this guy was a former Marine. There's
and he was investigated before.
Yeah, and he was investigated before.
Which is that's so painful for those families. Like they must be so frustrated.
Rumors of PTSD. So here's my issue with this whole thing. And I hate to take it there because I don't want to seem like I'm race baiting.
That's right. You got a white guy in studio. You're safe. You're totally safe.
When I hear incidents, and we need to talk about the manipulation of the media as well. Had this guy would have been a couple shades darker, I'm worried and I'm scared and I'm concerned because I feel like had this guy would have been a couple shades darker, I feel like he wouldn't have gotten the sympathy or the careful, like, hey, let's not be quick to judge.
Are you talking about the whether we designate it as terrorism or not? No, not necessarily. Because that was a big deal. A lot of people immediately were upset that this wasn't called an act of terrorism. Same thing with a pipe bomber, right? That one where like because he's Caucasian, we don't jump to terrorism, but as soon as somebody's a little bit more brown and they do something violent, we're like terrorist action. Right. This is different.
I think, because I think that's something that worries me because I feel like we are so taught as a society, if somebody looks a certain way, judge them on sight, and I don't think that should be the case.
Well, that's a long-standing issue that like the African American community gets blackballed as angry. Right, that like if you raise your voice, it's different than if I raise my voice. Right, like angry black man, angry black woman syndrome.
Stereotypes. If a guy's walking around with dreads, he might be up to something or something like that.
That's or if true. I thought that was true. That's
apparently to the ignorant folk,
fucking dangerous.
Right. apparently that's another dangerous stereotype people are throwing out there. But this guy is a former Marine, had former issues. In my opinion, he shouldn't be walking around with a firearm. And I'm not trying to be a jerk.
I see.
But if you got PTSD issues and you're a Marine, and don't get it twisted, I have friends that have passed away from PTSD issues that I went to school with, I hung out with, I grew up with. Understand, I'm not saying this to be a jerk, but if you have those type of issues and you're from the military where you have experienced a lot of traumatic warlike situations, bro, you don't need to be carrying a firearm that could potentially trigger and have you do something that you don't need to be doing.
Now, see, those are some interesting points. Let me push you on a couple of things. One, the military stuff. I'm sort of on the other fence of that. Like, again, there's a difference between like military cleared and civilian. So like I, as a civilian, can't have a fully automatic rifle, right? I can't have like a full auto M4, which is what the military has. Now, what we can get is sort of like the AR-15. That's the civilian version. Generally the same gun, but I need to click the trigger to punch out each bullet as opposed to hold and spray. They have training, we don't. I don't mind trained Marines, right? Like I have an awful lot of respect for our men and women in uniform, and if they're sort of armed up, I'm less nervous about it than some dude that just like went out and got a lot of guns.
I hear you, but this is a rare case where a guy, you could make an argument.
So for you, that's what I'm asking. For you, it's not the military thing. For you, it's the PTSD thing.
It's one of those things where, okay, he's in the military, so he's gonna get a certain level of respect that the civilian is not gonna get. Right. So he's probably gonna get a lot of, and I'm careful here because I have the experience of two friends passing away. Right. He's going to get the nod because he was former military. So there's certain things that they're going to give him respect for that they're not going to give the average civilian who never served. Okay. So my thought process is this. For the betterment and his sake, if he has PTSD problems, maybe he shouldn't be having the firearm.
Yeah, so for you, it's more the mental. I think almost everybody agrees on that. And that at least is something that people who feel that the Second Amendment is under threat in the NRA, they will constantly point to mental health. I don't think they're wrong in that aspect. I don't like how that becomes the only issue, that's sort of like a magic bullet that fixes everything.
Right, it can't be used as a scapegoat.
But what the problem is that goes back to healthcare, which we still haven't fixed in this country, right? Like President Obama tried and met with an immense amount of resistance that still goes forward. But like there is no, and I'm not sure everybody's aware, like we have no collective national mental health database. Right. It doesn't exist. So even if we decided to say that people who are registered as experiencing PTSD or somebody that's say like diagnosed bipolar 2 or severe like manic depressive or something, all right, maybe that like they should have a certain restriction on firearms. Whether or not Americans agree or disagree on that, some would say that's a good idea. Some people feel like everybody gets a gun no matter what, universal right. When we got to that conversation, there'd be no apparatus to do it. Like we have nothing in this country that tracks and maintains. You saw that. You've seen that with other shootings as well. People that like both with and without military experience, suffering severe mental disabilities that are it's on paper and booked in one state, and then they transfer to another state where they get a clean start, and all of a sudden they have weapons and a lot of people die. Right. I don't know many people that would disagree with you that this is something we should look at, but we need Congress to act on that. So we need something. We need a whole other thing to be created where we actually have a mental health disability database in the U.S.
Yeah, I agree.
There have to be laws on the book. So I agree. I think that sounds like a good idea, but man, there's a lot of work in front of us even to get there.
Right. That's true. That's true. So we definitely want to give prayers to the families that have been affected by this. And it seems so cliche, but it's just one of the things where it's like what can you do? I mean, vote. At this point,
what you can do is vote. Like that's what we have, right? Yeah. So right now, with the status quo in Washington, nothing is ever going to be done about this. We're gonna keep. And like one of the talks that I really I didn't like. It was interesting. Was a couple years ago, President Obama responded to one of these, one of the mass shootings, and I wish I could remember which one. It wasn't Sandy Hook. I think it was one of the ones after that. You can go ahead. Yeah, so I'll never forget President Obama's response to the Oregon shooting, because I'd never seen anything like that. Like, you mentioned cliches, and we do because humans are trying to do the right thing. The other thing I don't like on social media and other things now, people like get on. There's a negative response to people sending prayers. The impetus behind that is good. They're like, don't send prayers. Do something helpful, right? Like activate social change.
But don't shame somebody.
Yeah, if somebody is saying thoughts and prayers, it's not a negative. It's somebody who is, half a world away or whatever, and they're trying to convey to you positive energy, right? They're sending goodwill. Don't be mad at them for that. So I really dislike this thing that, like, I don't want your prayers, so like, don't send prayers. I 100% support, like, vote, do something active, change the world. I'm big on that, but like, don't crap on somebody who says they're thinking of you in your time of need. That's not a productive response.
Like, you're not gonna. Negativity only breeds more negativity.
Yeah, it's not, that doesn't help anybody. But in terms of cliche, I'll never forget Obama's response to I believe it was the Oregon shooting, where he didn't come out and say those things, right? And he said directly, we've grown numb to this. Mm-hmm. He said, one of these shootings happens and you guys come out and you ask the same questions and I say the same answers. He goes, your questions are routine. He says, my response is routine. He said, we just do this over and over again. And I've never seen a politician not do the show before. And him just say that, like, I don't have anything for you today, right? Like, we've had this talk before. And he said in that sense, he's like, it's going to happen again. He's like, I'm going to say this. And he's like, and whether it's a week from now or a month from now, he's like, another bunch of people are going to get shot. Right. And he's like, and if we just keep saying the same things, it's not going to change.
Nothing's going to happen.
And so that's where I would close. Where, like, if you're sick of this, like, your only apparatus is vote. You have to vote or get involved yourself and produce some sort of change. But yeah, Washington at status quo is fine and has been fine with a number of shootings for whatever. Right now, there's too much money attached to guns in politics. There's too much private interest groups buying elections, and they are more than willing to keep spending to keep nothing moving forward.
Right. Yeah, because when you start making progress on that end of gun laws and taking more, I guess, control, or looking at them with a fine-tooth comb, people end up losing money. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So that is why there's such that pushback there. So I definitely agree. We definitely need to vote. It's very, very, very important, folks. I mean, I know in an earlier episode with Hilarious Omar, he had a different perspective on voting, and I gave him mine respectfully. But from my perspective, it is very crucial to vote. So thank you so much for being a part of Audio Airstrike. We appreciate it. Until next time, everybody, y'all take care. Look out for the next episode. Thanks.